The Muhlenberg family dynasty started with one man, Henry Muhlenberg, a pastor that immigrated from Germany to preach to small communities in the mid-Atlantic. His mother's goals led to a significant impact in history through his work and the work of his children. I'm paying homage to my German compadre Muhlenberg with a very special menu, starting off with a beef tongue with radishes and sour cream, followed by a stuffed cabbage, a potato and broccoli casserole, Brussels sprouts deep fried and finished in honey of the estate, and finish it all off with a chocolate cake. All for a taste of history. The dishes I selected for today in honor of the Muhlenbergs kind of reflect their heritage, like mine. For the first course, I make it a pickled beef tongue. I'm going to slice up some red onion. Kind of coarse for that because we want to hold the onion up, not too fine. Granny Smith apple. You can use any kind of apple. I just like the tartness of the Granny Smith. There we go. Hang this over the fireplace for later. We're just gonna core it quick. You don't have to peel it actually. I just happen to like it a little better, but a lot of the minerals and vitamins are under the skin. So I'm gonna take a little bit of lemon juice, just a tiny bit, because I don't want the apples to turn. This particular radish is called a watermelon. I'm sure you're going to figure out why really quickly. Take a look. Looks like a watermelon inside. Beautiful color of the watermelon, isn't it amazing? I'm going to add this into my bowl. Now I'm going to add a little bit of parsley on top here. And then I'm adding some sour cream in here. Now I'm going to mix it up. A little bit of vinegar. It doesn't need any salt because the tongue is pickled, so it's been cured in salt before it got smoked. Okay, now this particular tongue you'll find in any Jewish deli, mostly. It is very expensive, but it's also very delicious. So basically you buy it already cooked. Now if you want to do it from scratch, I can tell you how to do it, but it's a big project because you got to pickle it, then you got to cook it for a couple hours, then you got to peel it. So much easier to use them already purchased. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut slices like that. That particular tongue is very costly. If you ever been to a deli and order a tongue sandwich, you can appreciate the price. Wow. The radish really kicks in beautifully. White pepper, parsley, mix it up. And later on, I'll let it marinate now. I recommend that you let it sit maybe 20 minutes. So later we're going to re-season it, checking on the pepper, on the vinegar, and maybe a little bit on the lemon juice. And then we garnish it up and it'll be beautiful. It's so amazing how one family can leave such a legacy. Let's find out more.
German-born, Henry Melchior Muhlenberg immigrated to Trappe, Pennsylvania to help lead a group of Lutheran congregations in need of formally trained clergy.
Because the congregations here had been without a pastor for so long before Muhlenberg arrived, when he gets here, he has to really sort of assert his authority as the legitimate minister and answer to their call. Here in Trappe, the congregation already existed, but they were worshiping in a barn because they hadn't built a church yet. So Muhlenberg oversaw the construction of a number of German Lutheran churches here in Pennsylvania. And when he died, he was recognized as being the patriarch of the Lutheran Church in America.
His legacy would live on in his three sons, Peter, Frederick, and Henry Jr. Inspired by their father, all were once pastors, including Peter, prior to his service in the U.S. Continental Army. Peter Muhlenberg would dedicate his life to the military, serving alongside George Washington in many important battles of the American Revolution. Eventually achieving the rank of Major General, Peter then continued into a life of politics, serving in both branches of the United States Congress.
The middle son, Frederick Muhlenberg, who's born in 1750, he is serving a Lutheran congregation in New York City when the revolution breaks out. Rather than the military, he chooses a political career. He joins the Continental Congress, and then he's made Speaker of the Pennsylvania General Assembly.
Among an impressive list of political occupations, Frederick Muhlenberg would go down in American history as the very first Speaker of the House of Representatives.
The youngest son, Henry Jr., is the only one of the three brothers who actually remains a Lutheran minister for his entire life. But he too also pursues some other interests beyond the church.
Although a dedicated minister, Henry Jr. would also make an impact in academia and as an internationally renowned botanist.
He writes one of the first catalogs on North American plants, the first German-English dictionary he co-authors, and he's also the first president of Franklin College, now Franklin and Marshall in Lancaster.
The contributions of the Muhlenberg family remain a lasting tribute in a diverse number of fields, including collegiate institutions, religious organizations, and even entire townships that bear the Muhlenberg name.
When I conceptualized the Muhlenberg menu, I could have done many recipes, but I choose to make a modest dish after discussing and consulting with Lisa Manardi that the Muhlenbergs were down-home people, not into showing off. So my stuffed cabbage is exactly that. So to make the filling, you do not have to follow my recipe, obviously not, because you could just use beef if you don't like pork. Some people do it with lamb and pork. Whatever you like. There's really no right, no wrong in this one. All I want to do or recommend to you that if you do make it, you would tell your butcher that you want pork that is at least 30% fat. In other words, don't have lean pork in there because it will not give you the flavor you're looking for. Same thing here on the beef if you can. It's just regular ground beef. Again, maybe 80-20 would be ideal. I've sweated down some onions. Basically, onions in butter without color. Some parsley. And my eggs. For this recipe, about 3 eggs would be good. Nutmeg, salt. Black pepper. I got a little bit of white pepper. And now comes the most important tool, your hands. I have to put in some breadcrumbs. All right. If you do it in the kitchen machine, it might be difficult for you to get the proper consistency. It's about right now. More parsley, a little bit more breadcrumb. Mix it all up. There we go. So this is going to set up for a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to get ready to blanch the cabbage. But the way to do it is just put a fork in here and put it on a big pot with boiling water. And then I just wait a little bit until it's blanched enough so I can peel the leaves. It doesn't really take much time at all. So you peel it off like that and you do it a few more times. So I obviously blanched some ahead of time so we can see it, but you saw how easy it is really. So in a sense, what you want to do when you have the leaves like that, you're going to take a small paring knife and you want to cut the rib out. And the reason for that is the rib itself will stay hard. 2 cabbages together, 2 leaves like that. Then you take your meat, portion it out, you take it in here, and then you're going to fold it over. You roll it, you fold it over, you fold it over, you roll it, fold it over, you roll it, boom, boom, boom. And then you have a roasting pan, which I have sitting right here, put a little bit of oil in it. So I have some regular layer of bacon right on top, right on top. And now this goes in my beehive behind me at about 350, maybe take 25 minutes. Beautiful. Let me close it up. Now the sauce I'm making. I'm gonna go right now and get started. I'm gonna sweat the bacon down first. You want some good heat on that. And the reason the bacon goes first, I don't put any other shortening into it. I'm depending on the bacon fat. Garlic and onion. Stir it up a little bit. Onion. Next come the peppers. So now, this is going to have to simmer down a little bit. Okay, so the vegetables are nicely sweated down, just like I want them. Paprika. Then we add the red wine. Now comes the cayenne. And then a pinch of pepper flake. So any brown sauce would work perfectly. There's so much flavor in there, you don't really need any. Wow, intense flavor of the paprika, the cayenne, the different ingredients. Garlic, very good. Goes back to the fire to simmer. I couldn't resist to visit the old stomping ground of the Muhlenbergs in Trappe, Pennsylvania. Hi Lisa, it's good to see you again.
Hello, Chef. Welcome to Trappe.
Well, it's fantastic to be here. Tell me, this house is so beautiful, just from the exterior. Tell me about it.
This is the home of Henry Muhlenberg from 1776 to 1787. It was restored in the 1990s, and I'm looking forward to showing you some of the spaces inside. So, Chef, here we are in the kitchen of the Henry Muhlenberg house, so the domain of Mary Muhlenberg, the pastor's wife. Here we have some turnips, which is based on a reference in Muhlenberg's journals, where he visits a woman in his congregation, and the lady didn't have any candlesticks, and they had an evening meeting, so this was a problem, and he asked for some turnips, and then he converted them into candlesticks for that meeting.
What a concept. Had to be a German thinking of that.
Clever guy.
But you know, I have my eyes right over there on what we call Stachelbeeren, in where I come from Germany.
Gooseberries, and we know that Muhlenberg grew them in his garden in the 1780s.
And I haven't seen them or tasted them since I left Germany, believe it or not. That's been quite a few years ago. Gosh, they're sweeter than I remember in Germany. This whole house has a warm feel to it. It doesn't look at all sterile, you know. It feels a lot of warmth and love in here.
I think it really feels like the family home still. So, Chef, we're here at the speaker's house, the home of Frederick Muhlenberg during the 1780s. And this is the traditional Pennsylvania German kitchen garden in which we grow all heirloom plants and vegetables, herbs, flowers that we can document were here in Pennsylvania before 1800.
You must be complimented, such a beautiful garden. So behind me is your newest, biggest project, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're working on the beginning stages of a very massive restoration project here to return the house to how it looked when the Muhlenberg family lived here in the 1780s and 90s. And inside the house is our stonemason, who is going to cook up a special surprise for you. So I'd like to show you that, and if you want to help yourself to anything along the way, feel free to do so.
I have never been shy about food. Snappies.
So, Chef, we're well underway now with rebuilding the chimney stack, which was torn out in the 1870s, originally built, of course, in the 1760s. And we're building it exactly as they would have at the time, using traditional lime mortar, which we have in front of us, and it makes this kind of stonework. The thing that's interesting about this, it gives off lots and lots of heat when you add water to it. And, and it's amazing, isn't it? Now, if you're hungry, we can make eggs. The lime doubles in weight and doubles in volume.
Amazing.
How long to cook a hard-boiled egg?
Well, it depends, between 6 to 8 minutes.
I learned this trick from Scottish stonemasons, and they would gauge how long to allow the lime to slake by how long it takes to cook an egg. And they'd sit there and peel it and eat it and throw the eggshells in the mortar. And if you look very carefully at old Scottish stonemasonry, in the mortar sometimes you'll find little eggshells, absolutely. So, Chef, you reckon she's about ready?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so you can see the lime here has become,
I see it,
it's going to become puttyish. See, like that? And when that mixes with the sand, it'll make this lovely plastic, sticky mortar that we love to work with. All right. What do you think, boss?
Ready.
And of course, chef, we do the Scottish way, throw the shells right back in the mortar.
Oh, that is perfect.
Excellent.
No, perfect. Look at that. I'll be back tomorrow morning, about 8 o'clock for some more eggs.
That'd be great.
The deal?
That's it. Hey,
Thank you.
here's another one.
There you go. For the next dish I'm doing a Brussels sprout, which is very, very, very German, very 18th century. On the fire, I have some lardons, which is nothing more than bacon cut in a nice little bâtonnet. That's already cooked there. Now I'm going to deep fry the Brussels sprouts, add it all together, lace it with honey, and the dish is served. Wow, what a flavor. So now I'm going to saute that and dish it up. All right, Brussels sprouts are here. Little parsley on top. So that was straightforward, simple, easy. So I'm making a dish that goes great with the stuffed cabbage, which is a potato and broccoli casserole. When you make this, you want to make sure that the broccoli, the florets of broccoli, which means just the little flowers, don't get overcooked. You want them to be al dente. Boiling water, a little bit of salt, and it doesn't take long at all. Remember, I would like to see my broccoli still somewhat crispy. Broccoli is ready. Yep, perfect. Just the way you want them. I put it in a spider. And the reason I do that is I want to make sure if there's any extra liquid, it's taken away, because I want my potato and broccoli casserole to taste like potato and broccoli casserole, not like water. My potato I cooked on the side. You can cook them any way you want, sliver, whatever you prefer. A little cream. A little sour cream. Nutmeg. You don't need salt because the cheddar is pretty salty. Okay, mix it all up. Take it off the fire. And now it goes into my beautiful copper pot. Breadcrumbs on top. All right, so the casserole now will go in the beehive for at least really slow, I would say 40 minutes. Put this right in there. My cabbage is perfectly cooked. Ooh, look at that. Woohoo. And now I'm just going to put a little bit of the sauce on top of the stuffed cabbage. Pickled beef tongue. That's delicious. Decorate it with a couple of radish roses that I made earlier. A little bit of parsley on top. Fire is doing good. Oh, the casserole is looking so good. Look how nice this cheese melted down. Sensation is the word. I hope all the descendants of the Muhlenberg will enjoy this meal that I prepared today as much as I enjoyed making it. But we're not done yet, because we are going to make an unbelievable chocolate cake for dessert.
The archaeology work at the Speaker's house has turned up an amazing number of 18th century artifacts, many of which probably relate directly to the Muhlenberg family.
Here at the Speaker's house, we do archaeology and a lot of historic preservation. There's three components to what we do: archaeology, architecture, and documentary research or archival research. So we're trying to figure out what additions on the building, where they were located, if certain additions are original to the house, or when they were added. Muhlenberg's probate inventory lists over 50 wine glasses, which is a lot for entertaining. As Speaker of the House, Muhlenberg was given a special budget for entertaining, in addition to his regular salary, which he believed was not sufficient enough, as one might imagine. and a lot of porcelain, which is unusual for other archaeological sites from the same time period. That was the fanciest ware that people had, so having a lot of porcelain was evidence of the high social class of the Muhlenbergs. No one ever knows who Frederick Muhlenberg is. He's kind of an unsung founding father. America has always been a really diverse place, and Muhlenberg is really representative of that diversity and how America is a really special place.
Look what I have here, Chef.
Diana, so good to see you.
Very good to see you.
It's Diana, my pastry chef in the city tavern, the best. What are you going to show me today?
Today we have German chocolate cake, which, as you may or may not know, is not actually German, but was named for Sam German, who made a sweet chocolate in the 1850s or so. So then 100 years later, a woman in Texas picked it up, made a cake with it, called it German chocolate cake, filled it with pecans and coconut, and now Americans all over eat it.
We don't grow coconuts in Germany, no pecans. But for the Muhlenbergs, festive morning, there would have been a rich cake, something similar they would have made, but it wouldn't have been called German chocolate cake.
So we're gonna start cracking our eggs, and we want to reserve the white for later, just 6 yolks. And now we're going to mix them together in our duchy over here, because it's a cooked custard type of filling. So eggs go in. Next in goes just plain white sugar, quite a bit, and also lots of butter. Yep.
I love butter.
In sticking with the traditional
Recipe?
we're going to go with the evaporated milk there. Pour this in, and it just really helps it stay nice and creamy and not get too tough later after the filling is cooled, so you can't ice your cake. Going to get it together, and then we're going to go over to the fire, and we're going to cook this down. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes. Get it nice and bubbly and thick. We'll just keep an eye on that while we get our cake ready here. It's just a classic chocolate sponge. You could certainly use store-bought. 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Beautiful. And of course, the ultimate trick, the bottom is always the top because it's nice and flat from the bottom of the pan.
You're full of surprises today, Diana. German chocolate cake, German knife, and now upside down the bottom. Wow.
I got to keep you on your toes, Chef.
You certainly do.
We'll just move this out of our way so that as soon as that custard is done cooking, which I'm going to go check right now. So into this, we're going to add just a pinch of salt, balance out all that sweetness. A pinch of vanilla as well. Lots of good coconut. This is unsweetened if you can do fresh, by all means. And now the pecans straight in, nice and toasted. Oh yes, and as you can see, it's coming together pretty nice. We're just gonna let this set up in a bowl until it's a spreadable temperature, not too cold.
Gotcha.
So here we are with our finished filling here. It's just been sitting at room temperature, and it's now that nice spreadable texture. As you can see, it's not just drizzling down off the spoon or anything. 20 minutes or so at room temperature, and you should be good to go. If you go too long or put it in the refrigerator, you're gonna have to really warm it up before you use it because it does come together pretty nice. The decoration for this is really very simple. You can make it complicated if you'd like, but I prefer just lots and lots of filling all over the place.
So you just want to divvy it up so you have enough in between the 2 layers.
That's right. And you can top it with as much as you want. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and use the rest of this on top and let it fall around the sides.
That's what makes it good.
Big old mounds on top.
Beautiful.
Yes, indeed. And what do you think? Typically, I would, refrigerate it for another half hour or so, but I think we should just dig right in.
Say no more.
Okay, let me cut you a slice there. All those gooey layers.
Perfect.
Oh, well, it fell a little, but that's why you want to let it sit in the refrigerator just before eating.
Take yourself a little bit too.
I don't mind a messy cake. Oh, it's so good.
Just remember that. It's unique. The coconut and the pecans.
It adds a nice texture with all that sweetness, and it's just one of my all-time favorites.
Diana, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sure the Muhlenbergs from Germany would have not mind calling this a German chocolate cake because it's so fantastic. All for a taste of history.